We're gonna start in 2 more minutes, just trying to fit. Okay. Okay, anyway, if you have I see the chat, so if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. And let's start this party. Okay. So I'm gonna start with the story. They say that, who's they, right? They say that it's good to either start with a story or start with some sort of a joke to break the ice. These days, I'm sure if you're taking classes or whatnot, they start with reflections or meditations to kind of like pass through the nervous energy and get into a space of being able to really process and learn. I'm gonna start with a story because even though that's not my style, I really enjoy this story. So basically it was the times of the Baal Shem Tov, and there was a big Rebbe, Reb Pinchas Koretzer, and he had a student, and the student was very, very makusher to him. He was very, very connected to his Rebbe, very connected. So it was Pesach time, and I'm sure as we're all in the spirit of getting ready for Pesach. It's just like, somebody said, because the war's going on, oh, it must be so hard, your kids are home. And I'm just like, not really, my kids are all teens, but I do remember when it was hard, when they were little and it was Pesach time and trying to get ready, not easy. So anyway, the story goes that this Chassid was a really, really big fan of his Rebbe. Pesach time comes around, and he took on the Chumrah very, very seriously. There's a Chumrah out there when it comes to Pesach that you don't accept invites to other people's houses. So he took on that Chumrah, Lagabe, his Rebbe, and so the Rebbe invited him to his Seder. And the Chassid had a really, really hard time turning it down. And then he invited him the next day, the second night. Again, he turned it down. And this continued the whole, hi Mishka. This continued the whole time through Pesach. So it comes to the last day, and the Shamish of the Rebbe sends a message to the Chassid, and he says, go check your well. He goes in the back and he checks it. He sees a huge piece of bread floating in the well. And he was just like torn, he was broken, he was beyond himself. And he ran to the Rebbe. He's like, I don't get it. Like, how could this happen? How hard it is for me to detach from my Rebbe. And you know how careful I am with chametz, with the chumrah, that the Arizal says that however careful we are during Pesach, that's how our, your Shemaim is gonna go the whole year. I don't know, how did it happen? I just learned, actually, my husband was giving a halacha shir, and he was actually teaching, it was hard for me to follow. But he was teaching how bread doesn't actually become batel in water. So it's actually very important to have hashgacha. Okay, that's for a different time. Anyway, so the Rebbe answered, it's impossible to take full responsibility to rid oneself and one's surroundings of chametz. We do all that we can, and the rest is up to Hashem. So this story encapsulates really what I want to share with you tonight. There's always gonna be something that's gonna trip us up. Always. Life gets lifey, whether from without, and there's like 300, drones and missiles coming at you. Whoa. Or from within, hormones, emotions, or whatever it is. There's always going to be something tripping us up. And we do our best. And we can't forget that Hashem is a major player in our way out of what we find ourselves stuck in. Okay, so kadima, let's go. Let's start this party. That was my introduction, and now we're in for it. So Zman Cheresenu, it's Pesach. It's the season of our liberation. We're like, feeling it, especially if you're a spiritual nature. I remember being in Machon Chana 20 years ago, And you could actually like almost feel it in the air. The spiritual energy was like, okay, what is Hashem going to teach me? What is he going to send me to wake me up and break me out of that which I'm trapped in? We always find ourselves stuck. And the Pesach comes around, it's like, boom, yalla, let's go. You could do it. So we're saying this throughout our prayers, it's in the air, but if you're here, or you like me, or we work together, or you know what I mean, when I wrote on the flyer, like, let's leave this food Golus behind. You know what it feels like to be stuck with the food. Now, I gotta tell you don't have to be overweight. I was 94 pounds overweight. So you have that story, but I know plenty of people that are stuck and they're in their right size body. They're stuck in their head. The battle is in the head, as we'll see. So it might be Zman Cheresenu, but we're probably not feeling it. So let me ask you a few questions. How many times has Pesach rolled around and you feel anything but free? Does food seem to trip you up? Especially more, feel free to answer in the chat. Let's go back. Let's take it slow. These are not rhetorical questions. Listen, what we're about to see is like leaving this journey, leaving the food Golus behind. One of the things we got to do is get very, very honest and very vulnerable. So I'm going to ask you again, how many times has Pesach rolled around and you felt anything but free? I'll give you a minute to answer. I'm looking at the chat here, and I'm not seeing you guys, but I remember, I guess 8 years ago, before I started on the path to freedom, it was Pesach and I was getting ready, and I had to buy clothes that I wasn't happy with, not my style, and just because that's all that fit. And I remember staring at myself in the mirror and just being like, ah. That's what I felt, right? It was Pesach and it was the season and I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Does food trip you up? Especially more these days as the stress increases, as life increases, as curveballs come your way. I teach kickboxing. As curveballs come your way, if you're not, fit and know how to maneuver away from them, you get knocked off. So when you get hurt, what do? You turn to the food? Are you constantly in a cycle of trying to lose weight? Or you want to stop eating in a certain way? All of this points to the unfortunate fact that we use food. Now, it's important to know the root issue because we can't uproot it completely without addressing the root cause. But there's a derech, there's a system and a seder to leaving a Golus. So even though we do want to get to it, the first order of business is putting down that thing that is tripping you up. Regardless, right now, the fact of the matter is we're stuck and we want out. We use food, unfortunately. What's happening, essentially, right, as I showed you, we get knocked off center and we feel dysregulated, whether it's in our head, in our body, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. We feel all mishkabobbled and constricted, and we eat. And when that happens, we suffer. We suffer in so many ways. Talk about noise. If we could actually record what's going on in your head when it comes to the food, ouch, right? Ouch. What else? It affects our self-esteem. There's nothing to describe. There's nothing to talk about here. It hurts. It hurts when we find ourselves in a cycle of not honoring our higher self, not honoring the lives that we want to keep for ourselves, right? It affects our relationships. This is how I knew something was up. I would say about 7 years ago, no, 8 maybe. I would say about maybe 8 years ago. I would say about 8 years ago. How did I know this food thing was really messing with me? I'll never forget. It's like kind of etched in my mind. I must have binged. Now I'm 47 years old. It's a good pay. But I'm actually 47 years old. And so I must have binged. I'm of the generation that wasn't diagnosed, and basically I was rocked up on the couch because after I did that, and then it followed the cycle. It was the cycle: indulgence, shame, and then indulgence again. It was part of the cycle of, you know. So I was on the couch, and basically I couldn't parent, and I certainly couldn't show up as a wife. So this was the turning point. This was one of the rock bottoms. I had a few rock bottoms in my story here, but this was one of the ones where my relationship with food, my very unhealthy, my very messy, my very suffocating, constricting relationship with food was really affecting me. And not only me, those around me, those that I loved most. So what was going on here? So the food, when it knocks us off, it could be because of a discomfort in our bodies, meaning that like hormones, tiredness, whatever's going on, something's going on physiologically. And we've come up with a defense mechanism when we were younger, to deal with, deflect this physical discomfort. What else is going on? It could be also emotional, meaning there's a dis-ease in our emotions. We were in the bomb shelter last night, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was basically, it was wild. It was wild. Like, okay, the news is like, the war has begun. Iran is, the missiles, the drones are on their way. They'll be here in a couple hours. And we're just like, basically like almost kilu sitting ducks. Like, okay, Hashem, we trust you, but this is still scary. Now I have to be in my game, and anyway, we're all in the bomb shelter, my 4 girls and my husband, my son's in America. And basically my daughter, my 12-year-old daughter was like, it was 2 in the morning. She's like, I want to eat. And everyone's like, what do you mean? It's the middle of the night. She's like, I want to eat. I'm scared. There was dis-ease. She was completely knocked off her center, and she was, wanting to eat to comfort that. There could be disorder in our minds. Again, of the generation that wasn't diagnosed, I'm sure I have ADHD. And those of you who are on here that know me could vouch. That's probably why I teach the teens kickboxing, and I could go for 3-4 hours in a row, right? The food actually calms me and grounds me, or did. What else? Disconnect. This is the source for what the rabbis say, that addiction, Jews, how do Jews get mixed up with addiction? They're so sensitive to the fact that Hashem is recreating the moment every second, that they kind of use something to comfort that spiritual disconnect. So essentially what happens is now we have 2 problems. We have the original issue of whatever's going on, whether it's a discomfort in our body, our emotions, our mental state, our spiritual situation, and then the food leaving its mark, meaning it could turn ugly if we do it again and again and again, meaning it can become a bad habit if the stars align, which means there's certain factors that have to be present in order for somebody to fall prey to addiction. Regardless, when there's basically a mess. There's basically a mess. Instead of, dealing with life, when life gets lifey, and making a high level choice to deal with whatever's coming our way. Okay, there's an emotion, it's present in my chest, I need to breathe, smell oils, journal, yoga, whatever it is, support, connection, whatever. I, smoke. Not a good idea. Or I eat, right? So now we have the issue of not dealing with the issue, the problem of not dealing with the issue, and then the secondary effects of our low-level choice, our solution, albeit not a smart one. Okay, so basically, we got ourselves trapped. And that's what you call Mitzrayim. That's what you call Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is stuck. Mitzrayim is I can't. Mitzrayim is ani lo yochala. Mitzrayim is, it's not me. It's something outside of me. That's, there's something going on here. Mitzrayim is the root word of Mitzrayim is mitzar. It shares the same root, which means constraints. There's something that has us. In this case, the food. It could be actually anything. The truth of the matter is we're all addicts, right? But here, there's something that has us in its clutches. There's something that's controlling me as opposed to me controlling it, right? Physically, we got either a bad habit or an addiction going on. Emotionally, we're using food or whatever else it is, the food, smoking, whatever it is, our low-level choice to cope. Spiritually, guess what happens now? The Yetzer Hara has a heyday with our situation. He's like, oh, look, perfect stage to get them to disconnect. Now I have them. We're making the same mistakes, even though we don't want to. We find ourselves stuck again. And this is what I mean when we're all addicts, because the bottom line is we all, whether it's a legit addiction or not, we all have an addict within. That's the Yetzer Hara. And if food is tripping us up, it's best to approach this situation as an addiction. Okay, what's an addiction? Let's just define it. And well, why is it a good idea to approach food, this constriction? Why is it proper to approach it this way? First of all, addiction is an attachment disorder. What I'm saying is that we have an addict within, and he's using something against us. Whether it's food, whether it's hot, whether it's something, he's messing with us. This is an attachment disorder. Essentially, addiction in Latin means devoted or given over. So, ki'ilu, which means as if, we are as if we're given over to this thing. We are attached to the wrong thing. Our conscience and nefesh are attaching to something in the wrong way. Our head gets involved, our heart gets involved, our stomach gets involved. We've become steeped in a form of avodah zarah, essentially something, again, it's pulling us away from ourselves. Another definition that I use often is an addiction is a whole person disorder, which means to deal with the issue, and even if it's a bad habit and not an addiction with the food, we have to keep coming back to it like an addict because our addict within is involved. So if it's a whole person disorder, we have to approach it from all the dimensions of the self. Physically, yeah, we got to figure out a food plan or a food situation or whatever it is, find the program, find the coach, find the sponsor, find the thing that works for us. And with that, we bring in hashgacha pratis. Emotionally, we have to deal with it because, wait a minute, he made a mess over there. We got to clean it up. So we have to deal with it on the emotional level, mentally, and spiritually as well. If this is going on, I got to tell you something. It's a very common nisayon. A very, very common nisayon. Golus is a very lonely place. And nisayon is a very lonely place. Rabbi Paltil said, one of my favorite teachers, that nisayon is the loneliest place in the world. Nobody can be there with you but Hashem. Right? But we have to know that a Jew is never stuck. The Rebbe said very, very clearly, a Jew is never stuck. Hashem created light and he created darkness, which means there's a purpose for the darkness that we find ourselves in. In addition, a Jew might feel stuck, but again, it's just ki'ilu, because it says about Mitzrayim, never again. So whatever limitation, constriction, Mitzrayim we find ourselves in, it's a self-imposed limitation, which means we can leave that Golus. We have it in our power. I'm going to show you through different steps, different fundamental stepping stones in the journey of Yitzis Mitzrayim, how to find our way on the other side. But it's certainly possible. How do I know? I was there. This was my daughter's bas mitzvah. And as you can see, my best friend actually is behind me. And as you can see, and I don't think I was making this face. It's a real face. The food took front and center. And everything else became small. Meaning I wasn't living up to my potential because my life was then small because the food was big. Right? I suffered the complications, and this is of food abuse. My body did get addicted. My brain and my emotional body got used to using food to cope. I lost it in all the dimensions of the self. I mean, this started from a very young age, from the age of, I don't know, 3rd grade. That's me. That's my biggest. I was trying every diet under the sun. So what? Under 10 years old for decades and decades until I was 40. Until I was 40, every other diet I've done, you named it, I've done it. But what's the cycle? What's the roller coaster? What was going on there? Nothing ever worked because I never dealt with the addict within. I was dealing with the food as an issue in and of itself, as opposed to on a multidimensional level, right? That's why diets don't work. We're working only in one area of the self. And more than that, we're extrinsically motivated, as we'll see soon, when we align with our true self, when we switch the motivation to inside out eating, we start on the path to success. Okay, so we're gonna forbring tonight. If anybody has any questions up until now, you can put them in the chat. We're gonna forbring. What are we gonna forbring about? We're gonna talk about how to rescue the inner child from the constraint, because trust me, where's the voice? Where's our voice? Where's our passion? Where's our energy? Like, we might be showing up to life, but we're certainly not showing up to life fully when we're stuck. And that hurts. That hurts. Freedom is a choice, and it's within reach. It's possible. It's possible. And Seder and boundaried eating are the keys, in my opinion, but again, there's nothing works for everybody all the time, right? You got to find your, we'll talk about that more. You got to find your path. You got to trust in Hashem for him to send you what it is that you need to find your way on the other side. But regardless, what we're going to talk about right now, we're going to talk about the road to recovery through the lens of Torah. The way that I define recovery is recovering your true self, recovering that little one. That little one, she's in there somewhere, but she's stuck. She's stuck behind the food. We got a rescue mission, yalla. And this is why we're looking at the Torah, because the story of the Yidden in general, this is a quote from Rabbi Simon Jacobson, one of my favorite, is a story of recovery and healing, growth and maturity. The journeys, trials, and travails of the Jewish people are a template for us on how to live our lives. A guiding path to discovering our truest and deepest selves. So, what is the plan? Let's talk about how to rescue the inner child. Now, just by the way, you don't know who I am. Some of you do, some of you don't. I am a shlucha here in Sfas. I teach at the seminaries. I write, my passion. And I coach, founder of SoulCare, Tools for Living Consciously. My whole passion is like, why? The song, why? Why does something have to trip us up? We have too much to do. There's as the Chabad, as the mother, as like women, Jewish women, we have a world. We have worlds to nurture and raise up. We have the world at large to bring to a brighter place. Come on, who wants to be talking about the food? Yalla kadima. Let's move on from here. So I coach people how to find their way out of the mess and then stay there, meaning out of a mess, right? I'm also a fitness teacher, and through kickboxing, I teach the girls that as well. Okay, ma'od. So yeah, that's me. Okay, let's start. Point number 1. So lechem, lechem is a milchama. It can be. I mean, the Zohar qualifies that. The time of eating is a time of battle. Lechem means bread, but it also represents food, begadol, in general. So lechem, if you look at the letters, lechem, milchama, machala, which means sickness. So lechem is the milchama, and it can turn into a machala if you don't take the proper steps. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right? We have to be careful because if we don't have a plan, well, you know what that feels like. The battle plan is in our heads. Our bodies might be affected, but the battle plan is in our head. There's so many voices. You might think like, whoa. But you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's so many voices. When it comes to this battle, eat this. Go ahead, you messed up. Kadima, just keep going. Only has a few calories, or don't eat it. Puke. Ugh. Right? There's so much going on in our heads. Who's that speaking? Yeah, well, that's none other than the famous cunning one, the Yetzer Hara, the previous Rebbe likes to call the famous cunning one. He messes with us. He messes with us until we're like, listen, I'm in control over here. So how do we get in control? How do we get in control? The first step is this lechem issue, right? The lechem. What do we want to do? We said it's a battle, but the first and most important thing, the preface to the journey, the first step in finding our way out of this mess is honest self-awareness. Ma nishtana halayla zeh. What on earth is going on here? What on earth? How could this be happening to me? I'm going to let this happen. I'm going to let food control me. Mazeh. Rabbi Asher Freund, a Hasidic rabbi and teacher in Yerushalayim from the early 1900s, he said, people want to see Eliyahu Navi. I bless them that they should be able to see themselves. Self-awareness, you haven't seen anything yet, baby. Self-awareness is the beginning of the journey. Honest and accurate self-awareness. Looking inside, kind of being like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? We need to look inside honestly, and we need to recognize the voices, acknowledge our reactions, and be okay with how uncomfortable that is. One who looks outside dreams. One who looks inside awakens. Okay? Chalom. Notice the same letters. Lechem, milchama, machala. We're not interested in all of that. Dreaming is nice. Actually, I just read an article that talks about how, I don't know how many signs, of an intellectual person. I was like, maybe I'm intellectual. It says you daydream. Okay, I daydream. Anyway, fine. Carl Jung says, what matters is when you look inside. Okay, so the previous Rebbe says, a person's work to improve his character traits begins with fundamental self-examination, which means examining himself in all aspects of his life. The person should not delude himself. How easy it is for us to be like, I call tov, right? No, and just kind of like make excuses, rationalize, and then, right? Nope. The beginning of the journey is self-reflection. One of the tools that I use and I teach is creative journaling. Journaling is a tool that helps integrate growth. It helps us see what's going on. So right here on the screen right now, I put up a prompt for self-awareness to help a person look inside when it comes to the food. Essentially, to gain awareness of how to show up to or not to the food, meaning you like what you're doing, you not like what you're doing, keep a diary. This is one of the prompts that I share with the people that I work with, but I wanted to put it in here to show you what's going on. So one of the most effective ways to approach an unhealthy eating habits is to record what, how much, what's going on. The act of writing forces awareness, the opposite of mindless eating, right? Oh my gosh, I had no idea that I was just eating when I was walking. I had no idea, like we do so many things in an unconscious way. That's why, actually, the question is, when you're looking inside at your food, the question is it disorderly? This is what I call the food relationship spectrum. If we have something going on with the food, we fall somewhere on this continuum. Our food might be disorderly. Our food might be already bad habit. Our relationship with food might have turned addictive. Basically, what's going on is that everything that a person accustoms himself to, again, the previous Rebbe, and gets intensely involved and becomes part of his nature over time. So we develop bad habits when it comes to the food. Like essentially, like the good visual is that we're creating like roads in our brain. And the more that we travel, the more that we do that activity, it's the more that we travel that road. And then the more easy and automatic it becomes to go back to that place. So we beat ourselves up for not being able to break out of the food relationship, like the way we're showing up to the food, but we're up against a lot, as I mentioned. We're up against the tahara because he's like, oh, this is an easy place to trip them up. We're up against the bad habit or the addiction. And we're up against the ramifications of whatever was bothering us. So it's really not an easy situation, but what we want to be honest about is where are we? Because that determines how intensely we work a plan. There needs to be a plan. When we think of something, when we're thinking of a plan, we're using our prefrontal cortex, we're using our higher brain to come up with the right next best move. So either if it's just disorderly, we're going to come up with a game plan. And if it's a little bit more than that, we're going to have to come up with a battle plan. Because it is battle. Essentially, there's some terrorists inside making balagan. And if you guys know what's going on, we can't negotiate with terrorists. So we really want to know what's the situation. That's why we have to be honest. And afterwards, after that, what do? What happens? Burn, baby, burn. More important than the awareness is the recognition of where the success is going to come from. We've tried, we failed, our will isn't going to cut it. It's not really a will thing. We do talk about in my courses and whatnot, how to get the will on our side and what to do when the will, our will kind of leaves the building. But we're not talking about that right now. If we have an addict within to deal with, they're a legit addiction, and he's spiritual in nature, we need a plan that incorporates the spiritual realm, something that transcends his limitations, a power higher than him. What do we say when we burn the chametz? May it be your will. Just as I remove the chametz, I do what I have to do. I become aware. I look inside, and I'm honest. Okay. Now I give it over to you. May it be your will, Hashem. And this is what we say when we burn the chametz. Just as I remove from my house the chametz, so shall you remove the extraneous forces, eradicate the evil inclination within us. Hashem showed us the way out. And we're about to relive it, right? The first step, regardless of where we are, is that Hashem takes you out. I'll never forget. I was in a Weight Watchers meeting. They call it Cheli Ma'aman here. And it was Erev Pesach, and the woman took like a tin. It was like a big tin. And basically, she said, okay, what are we burning? What are we giving over to Hashem? Everybody had to write whatever it was that they were completely stuck with, and they had to write it on a piece of paper and put it in the tin. So what did I do? I probably wrote sugar, and I wrote base hay. You can't see that. I wrote something like this, something along the lines of food, and I wrote base hay. Everybody wrote what was constricting them, and I'm sure it has something to do with the food. We're sitting there in a food meeting. And everybody put it in the tin, and it was burning for 10 minutes. And afterwards, she's like, okay, yeah, like look inside. We look inside. The only thing that was left, she pulled out how could it be? It was burning for 10 minutes. She pulled out my piece of paper that said base hay. The only thing that was left was the base hay. Hashem, if we don't bring him into the picture here, it's not gonna work. So we need to bring him into the picture. Okay. And once we do that, what happens? Okay, so we become aware and we're like, okay, fine, I'll admit this is what's going on. We give it over and then we go. Hashem said to Moshe, you must eat it in haste, the yalla, let's go. Why? Because whenever we go out of our personal Egypt and rise to a new level of divine consciousness, it's crucial to maintain momentum. It's so easy to slip back. It's so easy. There's a process. There's a process on how to leave our stuff that's holding us back behind. And it takes a lot of koach and it takes some work, but I'm ready. And all necessary measures we need to take so as not to slide back into the previous habits. Lots of stuff. We're going to discuss that. So what do we set up until now? How do we rescue the inner child? First and foremost, Ekat. Where are you? What else? Hashem, can we maybe let's do this together, please? But literally, it's actually a technique. It's called give it over. You trust 100%. You take this thing, visualize. You take this thing that's going on and give it over, right? It's called the God box. You could write a letter. Look it up, God box. You could write an unsent letter. Dear God, this is also a creative journaling technique. And go, just write. Give it over. Whichever way. And then you get the heck out of there. You get the heck out of there. Because you have to. That's the first step. I remember speaking to a therapist once about how to guide somebody out of a low time, a dark time, a depression. When she was saying how Ki'ilu, it's like the person is in a dark basement. And nothing seems to help. And you're just there and you're just passing the time. And that's part of it, not judging where you are, but just being an observer, just watching, observing, knowing how you do that, pass the time, because this is something that usually happens. And so one of the pieces of advice was to watch for the door opening, because the door always opens. The tide always turns. The mood always changes. Watch for it. And when you see that light peeking in from the basement door, jump. Okay. Point number 2. Freedom is a choice. You have a choice. As we said, Mitzrayim, never again. Hashem said. There's nothing to argue there. Hashem said Mitzrayim, never again. So anything that we find ourselves stuck in is actually a self-imposed limitation, as was already said. So you have a choice. You stay sitting in the basement. You see the door open and you don't jump, or you jump. Right? It's up to you. Right? So we actually have to believe that there's a way out. Freedom, what's freedom? Freedom is a choice. A choice to align with our neshama. A choice to believe it's possible. To believe in the leader. Ooh, tough one. To believe that, even when we get knocked off, to keep moving forward. Let's go through these points, because we have the third point, which is boundaries, and seder is the key to living finding a healthy relationship with food. So let's talk about choice for a minute. Let's talk about freedom for a minute. What does it mean to align with your neshama? So there's a pasuk in Kitzeze, talks about an optional war, which is very shy to what we're talking about here, because it's actually optional, right? It's optional. It's not, like if we're not, if it's a self-imposed limitation, meaning, okay, there's complications, we got stuck, the body, fine, okay. But it's still optional. We could always find our way out. How? The pasuk says, Hasidus teaches us that when you go out to war against, it says against in the pasuk, but the taich is on. When you go out to war on your enemies, when you rise above them, how do we do that? How do we not get pulled down into the mud, right? How do we do that? Well, you align with your neshama. Whose goal is it? Whose goal is it right now? How do we ensure success? How do we go out above, like, how do we win? We're in a battle. It's a milchama. I went out. Who's the enemy? The Yetzer Hara. He's the one, complications, fine, but he's the one I'm battling, right? So we mentioned when we tap in, right? We say, Hashem, yada, kadima, let's go. And we align with our neshama. That gives us the power. Our neshama has infinite power, has infinite koach. So when we click into that mindset, it's a mindset. When we align with that identity, I got this. When it comes to Yiddishkeit, this is a mantra that I used to use every time I was actually having a food craving. When it comes to Yiddishkeit, nothing is impossible. And that food calling me, oh, come on. Wait a minute. I got this. My neshama's got it. I want to play on the right team. What does that mean? I want to align myself and play with the right players. When I was younger, I used to play baseball, softball, maybe. There was a parking lot in the middle. To the right was a field for the little leagues. To the left was a field for the big leagues. Past the field on the right was a forest. This is the terrain that I see for playing with our parts. We have parts that pull us away from ourselves. We have parts that get us closer to our true potential. Paro says, eat that. Who cares? He's like, his goal is body image. He's like, or you know what I'm saying? Diet for the wrong reasons. I care what the number says on the scale. I worship the number. The other players, the motion side is like, wait a minute. Fair. I want to eat like a Jew. I want to show up to my table and eat the way that a Jew is meant to eat. I have in mind this, I eat that. I actually can have space to halavai, elevate, the sparks inside, but at least I could show up to the table and have control. I could have control. So whose team am I on? Right? If we're fighting the body, we're off. We won't win. And those players, Paro, and the ones that, the parts and the voices inside our head that try to get us off our game, that say, focus on the body, focus on the number, focus on whatever it is, the size of the jeans, whatever. We're not going to win. The body's not going to let. It's impossible, quote, for the soul to be free. And again, we want to align ourselves with the soul, because when we do that, that's how we ensure success. It's impossible for the soul to be free, to be God's servant, rather than Paro's, unless and until the soul has liberated the body. And how do we do that? We come from that power. And the body becomes servant to Hashem, and not to Paro, not to the scale, not to the number, not to anything else. This is the way we go out against our enemy. Hasidus explained, when we align with our neshama, that's when we'll be successful, right? And when we align with our neshama, it's a mindset. God said to Moshe, raise your hand toward the sky, so there will be a darkness upon Egypt. only the Jews, in the plague of darkness, only the Jews who believed in their redemption were the ones who were redeemed. That was only 20%. It was dark, not only for the Yidden to be able to, scope out where they would find the gold and the silver, the collateral, to leave, take with them. Hashem had to actually instruct them, please do me a favor and take this with you. They were like, yeah, I just want to get out of here. No, Hashem's like, no, just take that with you, because I promise. So, but also the Yidden were busy burying the ones that didn't click in. They didn't click in. They didn't believe it was possible. I spoke to somebody last week and she says, I don't believe it's possible. I don't believe it's possible. If we don't believe it's possible, we're done. We're stuck. We're staying stuck. If we align with our neshama and we click into that mindset, we align with our true identity, and we click into that mindset. Wait a minute. Of course, this is called? It's called tshuva. Of course, I have the power. It's not a question. Only the Jews who believed were the ones that were redeemed. The Jewish people were only redeemed from Egypt in the merit of their faith in the redemption, their faith in their leader. Oops, sorry. A prisoner cannot set themselves free. That's what it says in Pirkei Avos. Moshe was that conduit that said, guys, trust me. I promise we going. And the leader were like, okay, right? Even if their reaction was something different, that if clicked in, they come back to themselves, okay? And they keep moving forward. Moshe was the conduit for the Jewish people. He said they believed. This fueled their redemption. This is one of the features of Yetzias Mitzrayim, unlimited bitachon, right? The absolute reliance on hashgacha pratis. We need to, when we open our eyes up, when we become aware, what are we becoming aware of? Okay, what's going on inside? What's going on outside? Our thoughts, our feelings, our reactions, our interactions. Wait a minute. Whoa, Hashem, that Hashem's hashgacha pratis, right? When we open ourselves up and we're stuck, we have to we're opening ourselves up, and we have to trust. We have to trust Hashem, ourselves, hashgacha pratis. So whatever it is, whatever system that's being presented to us, a program, a coach, a course, a sponsor, whatever it is, right? Everybody has their depth. Everybody has their depth. So another piece of on our path to freedom, because again, freedom is a choice. Okay, so life happens and I get knocked off, something going on outside, something going on inside, boom, boom, I keep getting knocked off. The objective is to stay focused. I get knocked off, but the choice is to come back. We're always going to have impulses. I make a commitment that, first of all, Hashem said, like, I'm taking you out of Egypt so that you could, worship me on that mountain over there, right? There's a goal, there's a mantra, there's a goal. So stuff comes up, stuff comes up. They had that goal to worship Hashem on the mountain, and then they run into the Yamsu, and then the Egyptians are coming behind them, and then the Egyptian angel is above them. The wild beasts on each side, like they were surrounded from everything from within. There was fear, doubt, pessimism. They were poof. And the instruction was keep going forward. No matter what, that's the goal. We keep going forward, right? We're going to get knocked off. We have a commitment. We're going to commit to whatever it is that Hashem, makes clear for us through, right? Great, fun. And then we're going to get knocked off. And it's okay. That's life. And then we're going to come back. We're going to come back to ourselves. Our job is always to come back to center and keep moving forward. And when we do this, we exercise our free choice. So just to review, We play on the right team. We align with our neshama. This is when we come from, our identity, actions that reflect our identity are easy to perform. There's no fight involved. This is who I am. I eat like a Jew. Okay. I don't fress. I work on authenticity. Okay. And it's easy most of the time. And when I get knocked off, I have the tools and the measures and whatever, my coach, my system, whatever it is, I come back. I reach out. I speak to my friend. I speak to my buddy. I speak to my group. Connection is the opposite of addiction. And I keep moving forward. I get knocked, come back, come back, come back. Because it's a derech. This is a derech. It's not a diet. It's not a diet. This is reflects a growth mindset. And of course, we keep moving forward. And this is the idea of self-care through self-regulation. We stay focused through self-discipline, self-regulation, mind control. We're able to work on accomplishing our goal. Okay, let's get to the third point because I want to hear some questions. Seder and boundaried eating are the keys to a healthy relationship with food. Now, again, it depends on the person. It really depends on the person but the truth of the matter is, again, if we're aligning with our neshama and we're trusting, Hashem, the coach of the generation, the Rebbe says there's 3 foundations of education. It's Golus, discipline, and Seder. And if we're trying to deal with something that's kind of got us off our, has knocked us off our game, these are the principles that we want to incorporate into our life. We need Golus to our commitment. Whatever it is, Golus is an expression of the mindset, of the growth mindset, the unequivocal commitment to the program or whatever it is that you're working. The journey, the path, the plan, the boundaries. Okay, then comes the discipline, and that takes us where willpower doesn't. And then our ammunition against the enemy is Seder. So, as we mentioned, Nechama, you'll like this. As we mentioned, addiction is an attachment disorder. So we learn to attach positively to our neshama and the real motivation instead of the food. Addiction is a whole person disorder. So we learn to affect and work the different dimensions of the self, different tools, methods. And we do this in an orderly fashion in a systemized way. What's the order? Here we go. The 4 expressions of redemption. The 4 expressions of redemption are the Hasidic masters explain are the different stages of leaving Golus. There's something that's tripping us up. These are the stages that we want to use, we want to follow to find our way out. They refer to Sur Meirah, which means we have to put something down. Whatever it is that's tripping us up, as I mentioned, the Rebbe says, we want to know really the root cause, that in the beginning, Hamaisa hu ikar. So the first stage is whatever's messing us up, we put down. Okay, and then it's Asay Tov. We need to really attach positively. We need to make that high-level choice. We need to fill the void that, opens up because we've been using food in a negative way. Then is the time and the stage for digging deeper and seeing the source of the issue, right? And we fix, and we mend, and we heal, and then we actualize. So it looks like this. Lechem is the issue, as we said. It's a milchama. What do we want to do? Again, all the same letters. We want to work achlama, which means recovery. We want to work on recovering ourselves on a daily basis. We align with our neshama, and that's what we do, right? We want to bring in chemla, mechila. We want to bring in compassion. We want to bring in forgiveness. These are the different stages that we focus on and we work on. And mechol, right? These are the different areas of avoda. Now, otherwise it turns into a machala. So this is the ammunition. This is the Seder. This is the system. Seder means system. It's interesting that Pesach we express, you know, the night of our freedom through in a very organized and orderly fashion. Eat this in this amount of time, eat this much, lean this way, do this, don't do this. What? How do we find freedom? By following the rules, by connecting to something that's above us, right? So here's the 4 stages that I mentioned. This is the system. This is a system. This is the system that I use to find my way out, right? I mentioned that I was stuck. It was more than 8 years ago. I'm coming up on my eighth anniversary of having lost 94 pounds. And I thank God, you know, I found my way on the other side of the mess. The voices, thank you, Hashem. They don't exist anymore, right? There's 4 different stages. They correspond to the 4 different phases as I just showed you. First, we incorporate compassion, which are boundaries. Could you imagine? Boundaries are the highest form of self-love in the physical realm, right? The dimension of the self. Then we have to fill. We have to really fill ourselves deeply. And that it happens in the emotional world, in the worlds in general, the emotional, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Then we dig deeper and we figure out what's really going on. And that's the strategy is learning about what knocks me off, what helps me come back, how do I stay regulated, and how do I not use the food regardless, right? There was a voice that said, eat when you feel this. And we say, it's okay, Cookie, you might feel this, but we could do this instead. We could sit with the emotion. We could ride the wave, which is an actual technique of willpower. You know, when a craving hits, we ride the wave. We notice what we feel. We notice what's going on in our head. We notice what we feel in our body. And we sit with it. We sit with it until it passes, because it always does, right? And the more we practice that, the easier it gets until it goes away. And we actualize that. We do all of this, and you know, until we actually can show up like a Jew is meant to show up to the food. Our ammunition essentially is self-discipline, self-regulation, and self-care. And that all equals soul care. So Pesach is the time of our liberation. It's about matzah, right? You would think freedom is doing what you want when you want. And certainly eating what you want, but no. Become a matzah. Eat this way, even though you don't want to. Our impulse is always going to bring, what's our impulse? Our impulse is coming from him. That part of me that's pulling me away from myself. Become humble, acknowledge there's an issue, follow the rules, tame the ego. This is going to lead to freedom. Though I always like to use the mashal of the horse. Essentially, we have to put reins on our horse, right? Fruit, you know, like we can't put the reins on too tight, not good. Boundaries that are too tight or suffocating, they're not coming from our highest self. They're coming from a critic inside. No, that's not what we're interested in. We want to put boundaries in that reflect our higher self, right? So we put on boundaries, which means honoring a plan that you come up with, whatever that is. I mean, with somebody, of course. That works for you, not too tight, not too loose, right? And then knowing what to do when the horse gets wild, because he's going to. Doesn't mean taking off the reins. No, it means, okay, let's respond from our higher self, stay committed. This is the ammunition. The bottom line is, what? Yala kadima, what's gonna be? We've just talked about a lot of different steps. We've just talked about a lot of different steps that really lead us to a place of freedom when we're talking about our food. Let's review. Self-awareness. What's the issue? It's okay. You can get down and dirty with yourself. Nobody's going to get hurt. It's just you and you. It's just you and you. Give it over. Give it over. Give it over to Hashem. Acknowledge as an issue, give it over, and get moving, because you gotta get out of there. You can't stay there. You cannot stay there. Align with your neshama. That's how you're gonna stay. That's how you're gonna keep moving forward. Lines keep us from falling back into the ditch. Lights keep us moving forward. Identity, align with your higher self. This is the way, this is the power, this is the ammunition. It's a wild concept, but it works. Click in. We're always going to click out. That's nature. Come back to yourself, your true self, again and again. You know what? And it might be hard. And if you're still here, I see you, DR. I miss you. You know what? Yes, there's trauma, years and years and years and years of it. And yes, there's stuff. But I'm talking to you. It is so possible to leave the schmutz. You just need to want it. You just need to want it. Believe it. And, you know, the work. You have to put in the work. And it's possible. It's possible. You'll get clicked out. Training. It's all about training. It's all about training. Fitness, right? Can you see my muscle? Okay. So let's click in. Okay, yalla, let's go. Ma'od, trust. Trust Hashem, trust the shliach, trust yourself. Follow the rules, baby. Follow the rules. Okay, so this is the story. So now what's the takeaway? I said nice stuff here. If you guys have questions, you could start putting them in the chat box, right? Essentially, I'm just gonna go back to that slide. This is the tachlis. This is the takeaway. Self-awareness, what's going on? Honest and accurate self-awareness. Give it over to Hashem, get moving, move, baby, move. Align with your neshama, click in again, come back again, and again, and again. It's all about training, right? Trust, that's the fuel. Follow the rules. Okay? What are we taking away here? Listen, I want to offer you something. I'm going to offer you, I have a special offer for you tonight because I am so committed to helping women find their way on the other side of this mess. I was there. I was lost. I was rolled up on the couch, stomach pains out the wazoo, bloated, Kamo, I don't know what. And I would, you know, it's just not fair. Why? I was always a cheerleader. Whatever. I really am committed and passionate about helping people, women find their way on the other side of this mess. So what I'm offering you is a discovery call. What's a discovery call? We talk, we forbrain, right? If anybody wants to take what we talked about here deeper and realize and personalize what we discussed today, we could do that. I'm gonna offer you a discovery call, which means like, I know that I'm supposed to be getting ready for Pesach, but I also know that what you're going through is actually more important to me. Pesach will get done. But if you're ready to make the call, I'm ready to talk to you. And what are we going to talk about? First of all, how much is it worth? Well, that's a good question. It's usually $100. But because you all hopped on a very crazy time and you're here, so obviously today it's free. Okay, and free. What are we going to talk about? I'll tell you what we're going to talk about. Remember that food spectrum? I have a quiz that helps you figure out where you really are in the food spectrum. Is it just disorderly? Is it bad habit? Is it addictive? And what do I do about that? Right? Do I develop a game plan? Do I develop a battle plan? Let's talk about it, right? So also, we start developing. I mentioned tools here already. In this this talk. There's if you're ready, there's a plethora more. There's so much more to talk about. I can help you. I'll help you develop a plan. I'm ready to give my time because again, if just one person can show up fully. If one person can, break out of this food gullet and I can help them, it's worth everything in the world. Right? And we'll learn more tactics from eating, how to eat with resilience, how to eat that honors our highest self, that aligns with our highest self, that helps us click into our growth mindset again and again and again. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about when you call. I think a link is going to go up soon, probably in the webinar chat on how to connect with me. Otherwise, I'll put it on the other link. But guys, it's possible. It really, really, really is possible. Food freedom is possible. I never thought it was. I thought I was going down to the grave. My husband doesn't like when I say that. Fat. Like really, really big. Like really, really big. Like that's me, I thought not only that, but stuck in my head. I had no space, I had no energy, I had no patience, I had no fun, I had no love. Okay, maybe a little bit for my people. Yeah. Thank you, Hashem. That's all I could say. Thank you, Hashem. So I see your question. Thanks for that question. That's what my next slide is. Any questions? What if I don't know my trigger? So that's the mila and the benefit of helping, of bringing somebody into the story, right? I love it. I love it. I know I keep walking back to the kitchen, but I don't know what brings me there. So when you talk about it with somebody, jump on a call, sign up for a discovery call. We could bring about it. I will help you figure it out. It could be, remember that slide way back when, it could be something physiological. It could be something going on. Maybe your brain is actually addicted to sugar. It could be emotional. And there's in that food relationship question, in the food relationship quiz, I use questions to help determine whether our acts, the way that we show up to the food, is emotional or not. Right? It's just science. It's just science, and it's out there. So I help you figure that out. Here we go. Here's the link over there. Click on the link. You'll get my calendar, and we'll talk about it. Start watching. Start listening to the thoughts, right? That's where the self-awareness comes in, right? When I check out what's going on, when I listen to the voices in my head, we start getting clues. When I ask Hashem to help me figure out what's going on, He's going to show you. He's going to show you. So, are there any other questions? Did I keep time? I want to see if I kept time. It's a boundary that I'm working on here. Not bad. 9:10. Let's see. Oh, yay. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you enjoyed. Do I know you, sir? Do I know you? Yeah, I would love to. Guys, ask questions. Let's for brain. Yalla, kadima. Let's go. I want to put on a song for you just because, this is the mood. Let me see if my little team can help me put on that song. How do I get there? Wait. I want to put on a song for you. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to get there. Lila, can you help me? Wait, guys, wait. I want to put on a song that's going to encapsulate everything that we were just working on. Everything that we just talked about. How do I get to that song? Yeah. 17:51.
יפה שאת זוכרת.
לא, הנה, יאללה.
מצילנו, מצילנו, מידם, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו, מידם. בעזרת השם אנחנו ננצח, בעזרת השם ננצח בגדול, בעזרת השם אנחנו ננצח, בעזרת השם ננצח בגדול, בעזרת השם אנחנו ננצח, בעזרת השם ננצח בגדול, בעזרת השם אנחנו ננצח. Thank you השם, we will win.
Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is that the discovery call, I don't know if you heard me say that, it's free. So sign up. I can't see myself. Sign up and yeah, we'll talk about whatever it is that you need to talk about. Yeah, no, it's free. The cost is the call is free. And yeah. Well, if you don't, if the link is not working for you, so put your number in the chat, or if I don't have your number or whatever it is, put your number in the chat and we'll take it from there. Any other questions? So yeah, tell me who has more questions? Who wants a discovery call? Yada. Right, I understand. No, yeah, so sign up and we'll take it from there. Exactly. My number, take my number down. No, you write your number down. You write your number and over here, if I don't have it, if you want to schedule a discovery call, you write your number down in the chat box and I'll get my people to take care of it. Anything else, guys? It's been real. I want to give you a bracha that you should chop a rhyme. You should really chop a rhyme. The energy is here. I mean, last night, I don't know if you heard, but like there was 300 drones and missiles, the biggest attack ever in the world. Ever in the world. And not one Jew was hurt. No, they didn't enter the territory. And it was a big miracle. Hashem has his people's back, right? If we're stuck, there's a way out. You just gotta say, I want me. I want, and I'll help you figure it out. That's what I do. Yes, a huge miracle. Anyway, guys, it's been Yerushalayim. Yeah, I heard you guys had sirens. We didn't have sirens. We didn't have sirens, but we got the false news to get to the shelter. That was ridiculous. Anyway, I really enjoyed, guys. I really enjoyed. And if anybody has any questions, if anybody wants, like I said, to help integrate, I'm here. Put your name and we'll take it from there. Thanks.